Hello and welcome to my channel, where I discuss and post all stuff that is related to the gaming industry. Today I want to talk about one of the most iconic and successful gaming companies of all time. It is the Japanese gaming company Nintendo. Nintendo Company Limited is a Japanese multinational video game company headquartered in Kyoto. It develops, publishes, and releases both video games and video game consoles. Nintendo was founded in 1889 by Fusajiro Yamauchi. After venturing into various lines of business during the 1960s and acquiring a legal status as a public company, Nintendo distributed its first console, the Color TV game, in 1977. It gained international recognition with the release of Donkey Kong in 1981 and the Nintendo Entertainment System and Super Mario in 1985. Since then, Nintendo has produced some of the most successful consoles in the video game industry, such as the Game Boy, the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, the Nintendo DS, the Wii, and the Switch. It has created numerous major franchises, including Mario, Donkey Kong, The Legend of Zelda, and Pokemon. Nintendo and its staff have received awards including Emmy Awards for Technology and Engineering, Game Awards, Game Developers' Choice Awards, and British Academy Games Awards. It is one of the wealthiest and most valuable companies in the Japanese market. World War II negatively impacted the company, as Japanese authorities prohibited the diffusion of foreign card games, and as the priorities of Japanese society shifted, its interest in recreational activities waned. In 1953, Nintendo became the first company to succeed in mass producing plastic playing cards in Japan. The company entered into a partnership with the Walt Disney Company to incorporate its characters into playing cards, which opened it up to the children's market and resulted in a boost to Nintendo playing cards business. Shifting to 1979, there was two key events in Nintendo's history occurred in that year. Its American subsidiary was opened in New York City, and a new department focused on arcade game development was created. In 1980, one of the first handheld video game systems, the Game & Watch, was created by Yokoi from the technology used in portable calculators. It became one of Nintendo's most successful products, with over 43 million units sold worldwide during its production period, and for which 59 games were made in total. Nintendo entered the arcade video game market with Sheriff and Raider Scope released in Japan in 1979 and 1980 respectively. Sheriff, also known as Bandido in some regions, marked the first original video game made by Nintendo, was published by Sega and developed by Genyo Takeda and Shigeru Miyamoto. To try to find a more successful game, they put Miyamoto in charge of their next arcade game design, leading to the release of Donkey Kong in 1981. Donkey Kong was a financial success for Nintendo, both in Japan and overseas, The Family Computer or Famicom was released in Japan in July 1983 along with 3 games adapted from their original arcade versions: Donkey Kong, Donkey Kong Jr. and Popeye. Its success was such that in 1984 it surpassed the market share held by Sega's SG-1000. In 1988, Gunpei Yokoi and his team at Nintendo conceived the Game Boy, the first handheld video game console made by Nintendo. Nintendo released the Game Boy in 1989. In North America, the Game Boy was bundled with the popular third-party game Tetris. The Game Boy was a significant success in its first 2 weeks of sale in Japan and in the United States. Around this time, Nintendo entered an agreement with Sony to develop the Super Famicom CD-ROM adapter, a peripheral for the upcoming Super Famicom capable of playing CD-ROMs. However, the collaboration didn't last as Yamauchi preferred to continue developing the technology with Philips, which would result in the CDI, and Sony's independent efforts resulted in the creation of the PlayStation console. In mid-1993, Nintendo and Silicon Graphics announced a strategic alliance to develop the Nintendo 64. NEC, Toshiba and Sharp also contributed technology to the console. The Nintendo 64 was marketed as one of the first consoles to be designed with 64-bit architecture. As part of an agreement with Midway Games, the arcade games Killer Instinct and Cruisin' USA were ported to the console. In May 1999, with the advent of the PlayStation 2, Nintendo entered an agreement with IBM and Panasonic to develop the 128-bit Gecko processor and the DVD drive to be used in Nintendo's next home console. In 2001, 2 new Nintendo consoles were introduced: the Game Boy Advance, which was designed by Gueniel Nicholas with stylistic departure from its predecessors, and the GameCube. During the first week of the Game Boy Advance's North American release in June 2001, over 500,000 units were sold, making it the fastest-selling video game console in the United States at the time. By the end of its production cycle in 2010, more than 81 million units had been sold worldwide. As for the GameCube, even with such distinguishing features as the mini DVD format of its games and internet connectivity, for a few games its sales were lower than those of its predecessors. In 2002, the Pokémon Mini was released. Its dimensions were smaller than that of the Game Boy Advance and it weighed 70 grams, making it the smallest video game console in history. In 2003, Nintendo released the Game Boy Advance SB, an improved version of the Game Boy Advance with a foldable case, an illuminated display, and a rechargeable battery. Nintendo also released the Game Boy Player, a peripheral that allows Game Boy and the Game Boy Advance games to be played on the GameCube. In 2004, Nintendo released the Nintendo DS, which featured such innovations as dual screens, one of which being a touch screen, and wireless connectivity for multiplayer play. Throughout its lifetime, More than 154 million units were sold, making it the most successful handheld console and the second best-selling console in history. In 2012 and 2013, two new Nintendo game consoles were introduced: the Wii U with the higher definition graphics and a gamepad controller with near-field communication technology, and the Nintendo 2DS, a version of the 3DS that lacks the clamshell design of Nintendo's previous handheld consoles and the stereoscopic effects of the 3DS. Nintendo co-produced an animated film, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, alongside Universal Pictures and Illumination, with Miyamoto and Illumination CEO Chris Meledandri acting as producers. The Super Mario Bros. Movie was released on April 5th, 2023 and has grossed over $1 billion worldwide, making it the highest grossing film of 2023. I hope that you found this short video useful, as I have shed some light on Nintendo's history in the entertainment business. Don't forget to share your thoughts and to like and subscribe to my channel. See you and have a good day.